Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Makwariola. In a continent of strong men and weak institutions, the last few decades have seen an evolution of politics across Africa, where the bulk of the problem with development falls on leadership. Thinking of a typical case study in South Africa readily comes to mind, where the political reign of a proverbial cat with 9 lives married to 4 wives comes to an end. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on political developments in South Africa as Cyril Ramaphosa becomes the new president? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report now, and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
Newly elected President Cyril Ramaphosa has promised not to disappoint South Africans. He was sworn in as a nation-fit president since its first free election in 1994 after a parliamentary vote on Thursday.
Only one candidate has been nominated, namely the Honorable Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. The nomination is in order. Accordingly, in terms of item 5 of Part A of Schedule 3 to the Constitution, I declare the Honorable Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa duly elected President of the Republic of South Africa.
Ramaphosa's emergence as president followed Jacob Zuma's resignation after 9 years of allegations of corruption and economic downturn, which led to ruling party African National Congress ANC to recall him. Both men have had a past struggle after Zuma anointed another candidate for ANC topmost job, but Ramaphosa outshone his former principal, who became the party's leader in December last year. The activist turned businessman who was elected unopposed has pledged to tackle corruption.
I truly feel humbled to have been given this great privilege of being able to serve our people.
The road back to prosperity and self-respect under the 65-year-old will be long and hard in a nation still polarized by race and inequality more than 2 decades after the end of white minority rule.
It was cheers and songs as Cyril Ramaphosa became the new president of South Africa, a day after former President Jacob Zuma bowed to the pressure of the ruling party, the ANC, demanding his resignation over several allegations of corruption and abuse of power. Perhaps it was the moment Cyril Ramaphosa wanted in 1999. The former anti-apartheid activist was Nelson Mandela's favorite to succeed him as leader of the African National Congress and South African president. But the party overlooked him in a cruising blow to his political ambitions. Joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have Achike Chude, political analyst and deputy convener, Joint Action Front. And on Skype, I have Yaki Silie, chairperson of the board, head of African Futures and Innovation Institute for Security Studies in Pretoria. Good to have you gentlemen on the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Now let me begin with you. Let me begin with you now, Achike. Let's look at the developments that played out. We saw the ouster of Jacob Zuma and the swearing in of Ramaphosa. Now, what are your thoughts on the build-up that led to where South Africa is at this point?
Well, I think in your opening you described the outgone president as a cat with 9 lives, Zuma. But perhaps I think he had survived virtually all of the turmoil that characterized his presidency almost from the very beginning. He had this penchant for getting himself involved in needless controversies, some of them personal, like the issue of, when HIV/AIDS was at its zenith, in the continent, and the governments and international organizations were trying their very best to stem the tide. And when he, as president of South Africa, talked about even having sex without the use of condom. Now that consternated a lot of people. And then, of course, there were the official issues, official corruption issues, whether in the arms industry, his deals with the very rich
the Gupta family.
Yeah, Gupta family and all of that. So this thing has been long in coming. This, of course, and again, the use of public money to renovate his mansion and all of that. So we've always had this, scandals plaguing him throughout his tenure. And of course, you also remember one embarrassing situation when Nelson Mandela was being buried, and then leaders from all over the world had gathered in South Africa. And when he made an appearance at the event, the South Africans, his people were booing him. And I think that was one of the lowest points, in his career as president of, his life as president of South Africa. So this issue, of course, pitted the people against, different people against him, and also had a way of undermining the fortune of the ruling African National Congress, ANC. Of course, we know the near total dominance that they had of South African politics from 1994 when the country gained independence, and then the subsequent elections where they continually made increasing gains. But disillusionment with the economy and the inability of the ANC-led government, in so many instances, even under Thabo Mbeki and especially Zuma, to stem the tide of economic malaise and improve in the life of the people, has not really helped matters. South Africa, has had very serious economic issues, have not been able to tackle some of the social issues that have arisen. The issue of unemployment has also played a key part, in undermining the support base that the ANC had always boasted about and all of that. And so this was something that was going to happen, especially given the fact that somehow Zuma always ended up creating more and more controversies, needless negative controversies to his person. And so the ANC found itself in a difficult situation where they were already losing so much support, even in places where they were quite popular. They lost, for the very first time
municipal
in some key places in the municipal elections and all of that. So the party really had to do something about that. And of course, the combination of the whole of this was, the election last year, the battle between him and Ramaphosa that ended up making Ramaphosa leader of the ANC, and that had serious implication for the office of the president, for Zuma. And this, what we have now seen in resignation, is a combination of all of these, issues.
All right, Yaki, let's look at the politics in South Africa at this time. Even though Ramaphosa, seems committed to deal with corruption issues that is, facing the country, which the people are asking the government to do at this point, what do you think should be the focus of the ANC government now that he has this responsibility now to rid the country of corruption?
Well, I've just finished listening to Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address, which he finished a few minutes ago, which he delivers to a joint sitting of Parliament. And it was really a remarkable, powerful address, a call to action, in which he laid out a detailed and a very ambitious plan of action to deal with corruption, with state capture, which became a hallmark of the Zuma administration, and to turn the South African economy around. A wide-ranging, a broad-ranging, and a very inspiring address that I think will go down very well. Corruption is only one of the challenges in South Africa. Government incoherence, a large incompetent cabinet, a lack of direction and leadership, and a government that was really pulling against itself had become characteristics of the Zuma administration. And I think Zuma, within a week or two, will really be history as this new dynamism of the Ramaphosa era takes off. He set out a broad program that is much broader than simply dealing with the corruption and the state capture issues that had become a hallmark of the Zuma administration. He's appointed a commission of inquiry, the Zondo Commission, and there is already a parliamentary inquiry. Now, the judiciary in South Africa and the media are fiercely independent. Under President Jacob Zuma, a lot of damage was done to many of South African institutions, but the judiciary remained largely uncaptured, independent, and is quite efficient. So I think we will see very rapid movement on the corruption issue. But I think much more important will be the broader program that he set up.
All right, and let's hope to see other things unfolding in the coming weeks or so. But let's quickly go on a short break. You're watching Africa Today. We have more discussions on the matter after this. Welcome back. Cyril Ramaphosa became the ANC leader in December 2017, and he assured the renewing of the ANC and bringing back the values embraced by Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, and many other leaders. Now, as president, he promised to clamp down on corruption with optimism that he will help bring prosperity to the country, rebooting the economy of a country that was plunged into recession twice in 2009 and 2017 under Jacob Zuma can be a daunting task. Well, Achike, from what Yaki Silie said, from listening to the speech given by Ramaphosa, he is quite optimistic that South Africa might live out or might fight this issue of corruption holistically. But let's look at the issue of state capture, where the Gupta's family was involved. Now that President Zuma, or the former president, has been taken out of office, their words or their insinuations or speculations that this can be more troubles for Jacob Zuma. How do you think the government can handle this? And do you think there is a little bit of a, let's say, commitment now to ensure that this matter is prosecuted to its logical end?
Well, it is said that words are cheap, and so you need to be able to put your mouth where your money where your mouth is. And I think that is the challenge that Ramaphosa is going to face. Of course, you must not forget the fact that he's a politician, and the politicians have their usual encumbrances and all of that. So some politics we have to be, and again, because I know that Celia used the word state capture several times, and I think it's also deliberate, because I think that is what we saw, with the Zuma presidency, where certain institutions of state were actually captured and were brought, were used to do the president's errands, even if they were illegal. But also, he also talked about the independence of the judiciary, and that is very key. And I think we have seen it in the past, where the judiciary has been able to assert itself, even against the wishes of the president, unlike what we have in some other democracies in the African continent, where it would appear that presidents tend to have this ultimate power to decide exactly what happens even within the country, also undermining institutions as important as the judiciary. But we have seen that the South African democracy is actually much beyond what we see in some of these other African countries. You have a judiciary, like Celia said, that is fiercely, to a very large extent, independent. And another key sector of South Africa is the media, and that is also very critical, because key issues are brought up by a media that is essentially independent and fearless. And we have also seen that in South Africa. And so all of these things, especially these two, I think we play a major role, or play major roles in trying to ensure that whatever the new president wants to do, Ramaphosa, with regards to, for instance, tackling corruption, will be given the support that he needs. How far he is willing to go against the leadership, Jacob Zuma, and his activities that are connected to him, criminal activities that are connected to him, is a completely different ballgame. And that was why I started by, first of all, reminding all of us that Ramaphosa is a politician. And he's still going to have a lot of people with ties to Jacob Zuma in his government. He's not going to, they're not all going to disappear overnight. So one of the things he has to do, because this has been a long, drawn-out battle from the moment he took over the leadership of the party, last year till this particular moment. So a lot of water has passed under the bridge. A lot of blood, figuratively, has been spilled. So one of the things that he will have to do is to try to unite the party together, because for him to be able to move South Africa forward, he needs to have a team of people that are committed, a team of people that also have the same kind of vision that he has, and a team of people that are ready, to make the necessary sacrifices to move South Africa forward. But he will be plagued if he is unable to actually do anything about the corruption of the past that has captured the imagination of a lot of South Africans. And he finds himself having to weigh more heavily in favor of the politics of it rather than actually tackling corruption. Then he will be shooting himself in the foot. So he finds himself maybe in a way between the devil and the deep blue sea.
And that shouldn't be happening for his government, surely. But let's still look at this issue of the party itself. Celia, from what Achike is saying, there's a lot, in the hands of Ramaphosa at this time, seeing that the party, has been dogged by issues of corruption, since President Zuma was in charge of affairs then. But looking at the party now, do you think they have the popularity they once enjoyed when they came into power about, some years ago, since 1994 till now, and knowing that an election is just, a year away, do you think they still have the popularity as we speak?
Well, the last elections that South Africa had, national elections, was in 2014, and the ANC got 62%, so it has an absolute majority at the moment. Then last year, we had local government elections. Now, of course, one shouldn't always compare local results with national results because they represent different dynamics. But last year, if one translates the results of the local government elections into national results, the ANC support had declined to about 53%. Now, it is true, as you've been speculating, that the ANC is hugely divided. It is divided between two large factions, a Ramaphosa-led faction and a faction that previously was led by Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, former wife of former President Jacob Zuma. And eventually Ramaphosa won, but he won narrowly. But I think that the tide has turned quite decisively in his favor. He has a lot of cleaning up to do within the ANC. You've been mentioning that. So he's got this divided ANC, lots of corruption, lots of deadwood that has to be cleared out. I think over the weekend we'll probably see the announcement of a new, much smaller, probably much more efficient cabinet than the very large, incompetent cabinet that we have at the moment. The most important thing that Ramaphosa does is he has to unify the party and he has to get the economy going. And he started with that message of unity, of reinvigoration, of a sense of hope for South Africa, recapturing the spirit of Nelson Mandela. And this year is the 100th anniversary of Mandela's birth. So a very auspicious time for South Africa. So many challenges, big issues that lie ahead, but I think that he will manage to unite the ANC, and I think that we will see the ANC perhaps not do as badly as the 53% that I mentioned that they got in the local government elections last year. And if he can turn the trajectory, the downward trajectory of the ANC down, its election support has been coming down with the last 3 or so elections, he will have done quite well. A big problem in South Africa is that a large portion of South Africans who believe in the ANC, it is by far the most popular party in South Africa, have been staying away from the polls because they were just simply not prepared to vote for an ANC headed by Jacob Zuma and have become disillusioned. And I think Ramaphosa is going to instill new hope and invigorate the ANC support base. So I think that come next year, the elections, the ANC will not do badly, and they may even hold on to Gauteng, which is South Africa's economically most powerful and economically most powerful province. Previously, there was a chance that the ANC would have lost Gauteng by a small margin, but I think Ramaphosa may be able to turn the fortunes of the ANC in Gauteng province around, which will be a huge achievement for the ANC.
And let's look at what's next for South Africa? Indeed, these times have been some trying moments for South Africans for this period, and it has been said that the colors of the Rainbow Nation is really, really low. Do you think, and what are the options or what are the prospects for South Africa at this trying moments? What's next for the country?
I think that what Ramaphosa is going to do, and he made it very clear in the opening sentences of his speech tonight, and that he's going to recapture the inclusive spirit, the Rainbow Nation, the non-racial character of the ANC. That was lost. It started under Thabo Mbeki and it accelerated under Jacob Zuma, which essentially transformed the ANC into a black nationalist, rural-based party that was increasingly looking at traditional leadership. South Africa is a relatively modern society, and the urban support base is much more important. The urban voters in South Africa were ditching the ANC. And I think that the modernization of the ANC, which can only happen on a basis of an inclusive, future-orientated, one South Africanness, is where Ramaphosa is going to take South Africa. That doesn't mean that issues of race and inequality are not important. They are hugely important in South Africa. But you cannot build a nation where so much of the economic and other wealth lies in white hands, while at the same time trying to divide the country that had started, as I said, under Thabo Mbeki and was accelerated under Jacob Zuma. So recapturing that spirit of an inclusive South Africa and building a social compact that includes a compact between business, labor, and government, which he announced tonight, to really look at how to get the economy growing. And he knows how to do this. He's a businessman, and so on.
All right. Thank you very much, Yaki Sili, for your contributions on Africa Today. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's wrap up with the show with you now. Achike, what are your final words for the new government?
Well, I mean, we have said that one of the things he's going to embark on, and I'm sure he is aware, is the fact that he has to try to reconcile the various warring factions within the ANC, because the battle, still lies ahead. They still have elections, national elections coming in next year. And so he doesn't want to go, he wouldn't want to go into that election with a divided house. So all hands must be on deck. And it's not just, the factions within the ANC. I think the guest, Celia, also talked about the deep division and the gross inequality that exists in South Africa. The deep divisions between those who have and those who do not, especially, the whites, economic, distribution of economic wealth and all of that. This was also even the basis for the ANC to come to power, where they made also promises also to move the black South Africans out from poverty, and they have not been able to do well in that direction. And so there's a lot of disillusionment, a lot of poverty and the rest. So he has to look for a way, why playing the politics at the top? I mean, being a businessman, he has a network of, so many, business people, and they will be able to, I think, do hopefully wonders in that direction. But he cannot also forget the base, the root from which he also comes, and that is to do something about the marginalized in South Africa. All
right, thank you very much, Achike Trude, for your contributions on Africa Today. It's a pleasure, and we hope that South Africa becomes the Rainbow Nation as it says it is. Thank you for your contributions on the show. It's a pleasure. It is more of a payback time, with former President Jacob Zuma served in his own coin in a country where politics remains an unfolding story of how the opposition can keep a government on its toes and hold leadership accountable. In the end, the biggest lesson for South Africans in all of this is that participating in next year's election will be the most important thing they have done since the end of apartheid, knowing that position belongs to the privileged just as power belongs to the people. And that is our package for today. But don't forget to join the conversation on Twitter at TVC News NG, and follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. On to the next one. I am Esther Mokwariola, and always remember, this is Africa. Bye for now.